Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the message play for the third time. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Galactic Council had made their decision and it was final. Humans had to leave. All of them. Every human settlement beyond Earth's solar system had to be abandoned within 2 years. The council chamber had been full when High Arbiter Zelkun made the announcement. Representatives from dozens of alien species stood together, united in their vote. The Vakreen, the Thalan, the Orion Assembly, and more. They all agreed on one thing. Humans were too dangerous to live among them. Jake felt his hands grip the edge of the console. 50 years. That's how long humans had been part of the galactic community. 50 short years of trade, diplomacy, and building relationships with species from across the stars, and now it was over. Lisa Hayes commanded one of the colony ships currently docked at Proxima Station. She received the evacuation orders and felt her heart sink. This station had been her home for 12 years. She had friends here, human friends who had built lives on this distant world. Now they had to pack everything and leave. The reason for the exile seemed insane to most humans. A cargo ship called the Meredith had been attacked by pirates 3 months ago. The crew, led by a pilot named Chris Bennett, had fought back. They killed 15 raiders who tried to board their ship. To humans, this made perfect sense. You defend yourself when attacked. You protect your crew and your cargo. But to the Galactic Council, this was barbaric. In their civilized society, you surrendered when pirates attacked. You let them take what they wanted. Fighting back was considered primitive and violent. The Council had laws about this. No one was supposed to die over mere property. Chris Bennett had tried to explain his actions at the hearing. They were going to kill us anyway, he said. The scanner logs showed weapons charged. We fought because we wanted to live. The Council didn't care. Rules were rules. Humans had shown they couldn't follow the most basic principles of galactic society. Therefore, humans had to go. President Catherine Walsh addressed the people of Earth from the White House. Billions watched as she spoke with controlled anger. They call us violent, she said. They call us dangerous. But we only defended ourselves. We refused to be victims, and for that they punish us. The evacuation began immediately. Ships traveled back and forth between the colonies and Earth. Families packed their belongings. Research stations that had made important discoveries were shut down. Trade agreements were canceled. Everything humans had built in 50 years was being dismantled. Jake Morrison's ship, the Horizon, was assigned to help with the evacuation of the mining colony on Kepler Station. He watched as miners loaded their equipment onto transport ships. These people had spent years digging valuable minerals from asteroid fields. Now they were going home with nothing to show for it. One miner, an older man named Carl, approached Jake on the loading dock. "This isn't right," Carl said. "We didn't do anything wrong. Why should we suffer because some aliens are scared of us?" Jake had no good answer. He just helped Carl carry his bags onto the ship. Lisa Hayes was having similar conversations at Proxima Station. A teacher named Helen Carter was particularly upset. She had been teaching human children about alien cultures, trying to build understanding between species. All that work, Helen said sadly. All those friendships. Gone because the Council is afraid. The deadline approached quickly. Human ships worked around the clock to bring everyone home. Some people didn't want to leave. They had been born on the colonies. Earth was just a place they heard about in history lessons. But the Council was serious about their decree. Any humans found outside the Sol system after the deadline would be considered an act of war. The last ship to leave was commanded by Captain Greg Foster. He had been stationed at the furthest human outpost, a small research facility studying quantum mechanics. As his ship pulled away, he watched the station grow smaller in the viewport. The Council would probably destroy it, he thought. They wouldn't want any trace of human presence remaining. Back on Earth, preparations were being made for a different future. Admiral Richard Stone met with military leaders from every nation. "We need to be ready," he said. "The Council has shown they can't be trusted. We need to defend ourselves." Plans were drawn up for new ships, better weapons, and improved technology. If humans were going to be alone in the universe, they would make sure they could survive alone. The monitoring stations appeared shortly after the last human ship crossed back into Sol system. The Council placed 6 large satellites at the edge of human space. These stations would watch everything humans did. They would make sure no human ships tried to leave. They would enforce the quarantine. High Arbiter Zelkun made one final broadcast to Earth. "This is for the good of the galaxy," he said. "Humanity needs time to learn peaceful ways. Perhaps in a few thousand years, when you have evolved beyond your violent nature, we can talk again." The message ended, and Earth's communication with the wider galaxy was cut off. No more alien broadcasts. No more trade ships. No more exchange of ideas or culture. Humanity was alone again, just like they had been before first contact. President Walsh called an emergency meeting of world leaders. In a rare moment of unity, every nation agreed on the path forward. They would not waste time being angry. They would not spend energy on revenge fantasies. Instead, they would focus on making humanity stronger, smarter, and more advanced. "They want us isolated," Walsh said. "Fine, we'll use this time to grow. And when we're ready, when we're strong enough that no one can push us around, then we'll see who needs who." Scientists were given unlimited funding. Engineers were told to dream big. Military planners were asked to design ships that could defend Earth against any threat. Teachers began educating a new generation of humans who would never forget this betrayal. Jake Morrison looked out at the stars from his apartment on Earth. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued without humans. Aliens went about their business, probably happy that the dangerous humans were gone. But Jake made himself a promise. Humanity would return to those stars someday, and when they did, it would be on their own terms. The exile had begun, but it wouldn't last forever. Humans were stubborn that way. They never stayed down for long. 20 years passed since the exile began. Earth had changed in ways that would have amazed the aliens who forced humanity into isolation. The monitoring stations at the edge of the solar system continued to watch and send reports back to the Galactic Council. But those reports were mostly ignored. Helen Carter was no longer a teacher on a distant colony. She was now Dr. Helen Carter, leading a team of scientists at the Lunar Research Center. Her specialty was quantum physics, and she had just made a breakthrough that would change everything for humanity. "The test was successful," she told Admiral Richard Stone during a video conference. "Our new quantum drive can move a ship 3 times faster than anything the Council uses. And it uses half the energy." Stone smiled. He was older now, with gray in his hair, but his eyes were sharp. "How soon can we install it in the fleet?" 6 months for the first ships," Helen replied. "A year for full implementation." The quantum drive was just one of many advances. Without access to galactic trade, humans had to invent everything themselves. This forced innovation had pushed human technology forward at an incredible pace. On Mars Colony, engineer Paul Dixon was solving different problems. The colony needed better artificial gravity to keep people healthy. The systems the Council had sold them years ago were expensive and broke down constantly. So Paul designed something new. His artificial gravity generator was smaller, more efficient, and more reliable than anything in the galaxy. It used a rotating magnetic field that Paul had invented in his garage workshop. Now every human settlement from Earth to the outer moons used his design. "The beauty of necessity," Paul liked to say. "When you can't buy what you need, you build something better." The shipyards above Luna worked day and night. Admiral Stone oversaw the construction of a new defense fleet. These weren't like the old human ships that had tried to copy alien designs. These were purely human vessels, built on human principles. Captain Greg Foster, now a senior commander, walked through one of the new ships with Stone. "Redundant systems on every deck," Greg observed. "Multiple power sources. Armor that can regenerate. These ships are built to take damage and keep fighting." Stone nodded. "The Council builds ships for exploration and trade. We're building ships to survive. There's a difference." The military wasn't the only area of growth. Dr. Amy Phillips had discovered something remarkable about human brains. While working with quantum computers, she found that human neural patterns could interface directly with quantum processors in ways alien brains couldn't. "It's like our brains are wired for chaos," Amy explained to a group of pilots. "Quantum systems exist in multiple states at once. Most alien species find this confusing. But humans? We handle it naturally. We're good at dealing with uncertainty." This discovery led to a new generation of ship controls. A single human pilot could now process information that would normally require a crew of 10 aliens. Reaction times improved dramatically. Human ships could dodge and weave through space in ways that would make alien observers dizzy. On Titan Station, Commander Greg Foster trained new pilots using these systems. The simulation room could create any combat scenario imaginable. Young pilots learned to push themselves and their ships to the absolute limit. One pilot, a young woman named Kelly Wright, set a new record for the obstacle course. "How did you do that?" Greg asked after reviewing her flight data. Kelly shrugged. "I stopped thinking and just reacted. The ship feels like part of my body now." That was exactly what the trainers wanted to hear. Humans were becoming one with their machines in ways the galaxy had never seen. Medical science advanced rapidly too. Dr. Nathan Cross led research into human biology and aging. Without alien medical technology to rely on, human doctors had to understand their own bodies better. The results were impressive. "We've extended the average human lifespan by 15 years, Nathan reported to President Daniel Warren, who had been elected 10 years after the exile began. "And we've improved healing rates by 40%. Injuries that used to take months now heal in weeks." Warren was pleased. The council thought isolation would weaken us. They were wrong. But not everyone was happy with the changes. Some people on Earth wanted to try communicating with the council again. They argued that 20 years was long enough. Maybe the aliens would listen now. Lisa Hayes, now an admiral in charge of colony defense, disagreed strongly. "They exiled us for defending ourselves," she said during a government meeting. "Nothing has changed. They're still the same species who fear anyone who won't roll over and surrender." The debate continued, but the military kept building. Better ships, better weapons, better defenses, just in case. The monitoring stations continued sending their reports. They documented human technological advances. They noted the new quantum drives, the improved weapons, the expanding colonies throughout the Sol system. All of this information went to the Council headquarters on Vok Prime. High Arbiter Tel Rune, who had replaced Zelkun, read the reports with mild interest. "The humans are advancing quickly," he noted to Junior Arbiter Melkan. "But it doesn't matter. They're contained. As long as they stay in their system, they're not our problem." Melkan wasn't so sure. "Some of these advances are impressive. Perhaps we should consider ending the quarantine." Tel Rune waved his hand dismissively. "In another century, perhaps. For now, let them play with their toys." Back in the Sol system, Jake Morrison was now a captain commanding his own ship. He regularly patrolled the edge of human space, always watching the Council monitoring stations. Sometimes he wondered what the aliens thought when they saw human ships passing by. Did they realize how much humans had changed? His crew included Chris Bennett, the pilot whose actions had started the whole exile. Chris was older now, but still sharp. "You ever think about flying past those stations?" Chris asked Jake one day. "Just to see what they do?" Jake smiled. "Every day. But we wait. We're not ready yet. When will we be ready? When we're so strong that they can't push us around anymore. When we can go where we want and do what we want and no council decree can stop us." Chris liked that answer. Scientists like Helen Carter kept pushing boundaries. Engineers like Paul Dixon kept building better systems. Doctors like Nathan Cross kept improving human health. Pilots like Kelly Wright kept getting faster and more skilled. And military leaders like Admiral Stone kept preparing for a future where humanity wouldn't have to ask permission to exist. The galaxy beyond the monitoring stations continued its peaceful existence. Aliens traded with each other, held diplomatic meetings, and maintained their civilized society. They had forgotten about humans. Or at least they thought they had. But far out at the edge of galactic space, something was moving. Long-range sensors on the monitoring stations detected strange readings. Energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Movement patterns that suggested something massive was coming. The monitoring stations sent these readings back to the Council, but the reports were filed away with thousands of others. No one paid attention. After all, the galaxy had been at peace for thousands of years. What could possibly threaten that? On Earth, human scientists picked up the same readings. They didn't ignore them. The warnings came 3 months before the attack. Long-range sensors across the galaxy detected something moving from the galactic core. At first, most species thought it was a natural phenomenon, perhaps a wave of radiation or a stellar event. But the readings kept getting stronger, and the pattern was too organized to be natural. The Centauri League was the first to see them clearly. Their border patrol ships picked up massive objects moving through space at impossible speeds. Captain Vorthen commanded the scouting fleet sent to investigate. What he found made his blood run cold. Ships. Thousands of them. But not like any ships Vorthen had ever seen. These were dark metal constructs with no visible windows or communication arrays. They moved in perfect formation like a swarm of insects. When Vorthen tried to hail them, there was no response. "Fall back," Vorthen ordered his fleet. "We need to report this." Before his ships could turn around, the unknown vessels opened fire. Beams of energy cut through space, striking Centauri ships with deadly accuracy. Vorthen watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart in minutes. He managed to send one final message before his own ship exploded. "They're machines, ancient machines, and they're coming for all of us." The Galactic Council received Vorthen's message and immediately called an emergency session. High Arbiter Telrune stood before the assembled representatives, looking grave. "We must take this threat seriously. The Centauri League has lost contact with 3 of their border systems. Whatever these machines are, they're extremely dangerous." The Council decided to send a diplomatic mission. The Thalen Collective volunteered, as they were known for their skills in negotiation. A ship carrying their finest diplomats approached the machine fleet with messages of peace and offers of tribute. The machines didn't respond to the diplomatic messages. They simply opened fire. The Thalen ship was destroyed in seconds. Every diplomat on board died without ever learning what they were facing. Now the galaxy understood. These weren't invaders who wanted territory or resources. These machines wanted destruction. Complete and total destruction. The Orion Assembly prepared for war. General Kazakh, a veteran commander who had maintained peace on the Orion border for decades, mobilized the entire Orion fleet. "We'll stop them at the Orion line," he declared confidently. "Our defenses have held for centuries." The machines, which the galaxy started calling the Devourers, reached the Orion line 2 weeks later. General Kazakh commanded over 500 warships and a defensive network of satellites and weapons platforms. It was the strongest military force the Orion Assembly had ever assembled. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Devourers adapted to every weapon fired at them. Energy shields that had protected Orion ships for generations became useless as the machines learned to penetrate them. Weapons that should have destroyed the mechanical invaders were deflected or absorbed. By the time Kazakh ordered a retreat, only 80 Orion ships remained. The galaxy watched in growing terror as system after system fell. The Devourers moved like a plague across civilized space. Every planet they reached was stripped of all life and resources. Nothing was left but dead worlds. The Galactic Council met again, this time with real fear in their voices. Junior Arbiter Melkon looked at the tactical displays showing the Devourer advance. At their current speed, they'll reach the core worlds in 8 months. "We need a unified defense," High Arbiter Telrune agreed. "Every species must contribute their military forces. We'll make a stand at the Barrier Nebula. It's our best chance." Messages went out to every member species of the Council. Bring every ship, every weapon, every resource. The survival of the galaxy depended on stopping the Devourers at the Barrier Nebula. Fleet Admiral Zesketh of the Vakreen took command of the combined fleet. 15,000 ships from dozens of species gathered at the nebula. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Surely this would be enough. The Devourers arrived exactly when predicted. They came in waves, thousands of machine ships moving with mechanical precision. The battle began with the combined fleet firing everything they had. Missiles, energy beams, kinetic weapons, and experimental technology all targeted the machines. For a moment, it seemed to work. Devourer ships exploded under the massive firepower, but then the machines began to adapt. Their shields changed frequency to deflect energy weapons. Their hulls hardened against kinetic strikes. They learned from each attack and evolved their defenses in real time. Zesketh watched from his command ship as the battle turned against them. "Focus fire on individual targets," he ordered. Don't let them adapt to everything at once, but it was too late. The Devourers had learned too much. They began targeting command ships specifically, using tactics that showed they understood fleet organization. Within hours, the unified defense was falling apart. Ships from different species tried to retreat, but the Devourers were faster. They pursued fleeing vessels and destroyed them systematically. The beautiful Barrier Nebula became a graveyard filled with debris from thousands of ships. Zesketh's own command ship was heavily damaged. "All ships fall back," he ordered. "Retreat to Vac Prime, we need to regroup." But there was no regrouping from this defeat. The unified fleet had been humanity's best hope, and it had lasted only 2 days against the Devourers. Out of 15,000 ships, fewer than 3,000 survived to retreat. Back at the council chambers on Vac Prime, the mood was one of despair. Representatives from species across the galaxy argued about what to do next. Some suggested surrendering. Others wanted to evacuate their homeworlds and flee to the far edges of the galaxy. Junior Arbiter Melkan looked at the tactical maps showing the Devourer advance. Red markers covered a quarter of the galaxy now. Billions of beings were dead. Entire civilizations had been wiped out, and the machines showed no signs of stopping. "We've tried everything," one representative said. "Our best weapons, our best tactics, our best commanders. Nothing works. These machines learn too fast. They adapt to everything." Another representative added, "Perhaps we should focus on evacuation. Save who we can and abandon the rest." Melkan studied the maps in silence. Then something occurred to him. Something that would have been unthinkable just months ago. He looked at the others and spoke carefully. "There is one military force we haven't asked for help." High Arbiter Telrune stared at him. "You can't be serious." "The humans," Melkan continued. "They've been isolated for 20 years. Our monitoring stations show they've advanced significantly. Perhaps they have capabilities we lack." The room erupted in argument. Many representatives were shocked by the suggestion. The humans had been exiled for being too violent, too dangerous. How could they possibly help now? But Telrune looked at the maps showing the Devourer advance and made a decision. "We exiled them for refusing to surrender when attacked. That same quality might be what we need now." Fleet Admiral Zesketh, still recovering from his wounds, agreed. "I fought the Devourers. Traditional galactic tactics don't work. Maybe we need someone who thinks differently, someone who never learned to surrender." The vote was close, but the decision was made. The Galactic Council would send a delegation to Earth. They would ask the species they had exiled to save the galaxy that rejected them. Telrune looked at Melkan. "You'll come with me. And Zesketh. The humans will want to see that we're serious." As they prepared the diplomatic ship for the journey to Sol System, Melkan wondered what the humans would say. Would they help the galaxy that cast them out? Would they even listen? Only one way to find out. The Council diplomatic ship crossed into the Sol System for the first time in 20 years. High Arbiter Telrune sat in the command chair, trying to calm his nerves. Beside him were Junior Arbiter Melkan and Fleet Admiral Zesketh. All three knew this was a moment that would define the future of the galaxy. The automated warning system activated immediately. A voice, cold and mechanical, filled the ship's bridge. "You are entering quarantined human territory. Under Galactic Council Decree 7754, no alien vessels are permitted beyond this point. Retreat immediately or be fired upon." Telrune took a deep breath. This was his decree, his rule. Now he had to break it. "This is High Arbiter Telrune of the Galactic Council. We request an audience with human leadership on a matter of urgent importance." "The galaxy is in danger," silence followed. Long, uncomfortable silence. Zesketh checked his sensors and saw multiple human ships approaching at high speed. They appeared on the view screen moments later, 3 vessels moving with precision that made the council ship look clumsy. Finally, a human voice responded. "Stand by for escort.
Do not deviate from the flight path we're about to send you.
Any hostile action will result in immediate destruction." The threat was clear and direct. Telrune nodded to his pilot. "Follow their instructions exactly." The 3 human ships escorted them to a massive orbital platform above Earth. Telrune stared at the planet below. The last time he had seen Earth, it was a world with basic space infrastructure. Now it was surrounded by defensive stations, shipyards, and structures he couldn't identify. Humanity had been busy during their isolation. They were brought to a conference room with large windows overlooking Earth. President Daniel Warren was waiting for them, along with several military officers and advisors. Telrune recognized some faces from 20 years ago. Admiral Richard Stone looked older but still strong. Jake Morrison, once a simple ship commander, now wore the uniform of a high-ranking officer. Lisa Hayes had admiral insignia on her uniform. President Warren didn't offer traditional greetings. He simply gestured to chairs across the table. "You have 5 minutes to explain why we shouldn't blow your ship out of space and send you home in pieces." Telrune sat down slowly. He had prepared a speech, but looking at the faces around this table, he knew speeches wouldn't work. These people had been hurt by his decisions. They deserved the truth, direct and simple. The galaxy is being destroyed, Telrune began. An ancient enemy has awakened from the galactic core. We call them the Devourers. Their machine intelligence is older than any living civilization. In 6 months, they've consumed a quarter of known space. He activated a holographic display showing the Devourer advance. Red marked conquered territory. The amount of red made several humans lean forward to look closer. Admiral Stone spoke first. We've seen the energy readings. We didn't know what they were. They're death, Zesketh said quietly. I commanded 15,000 ships against them at the Barrier Nebula. We lasted 2 days. The Devourers adapt to every weapon, every tactic. They learn faster than we can change our strategies. Junior Arbiter Melkin added, trillions are dead. Entire species wiped out. At their current rate of advance, the core worlds will fall within months. Unless we find a way to stop them, the galaxy will die. President Warren looked at the holographic display. And you're here because? Telrune met his gaze directly. Because we need your help. Humanity's help. The room fell silent. Lisa Hayes laughed, but there was no humor in it. You need our help. The species you exiled because we were too violent, too dangerous, too uncivilized to exist among proper galactic society. Yes, Telrune said simply. We were wrong. About everything. Admiral Stone leaned back in his chair. Explain, Melkon spoke up. The Council built our civilization on principles of peace and diplomacy. We believed all conflicts could be resolved through negotiation and compromise. When humans joined the galactic community, you didn't share these beliefs. You fought back when attacked. You refused to surrender. To us, this seemed barbaric. So you kicked us out, Jake Morrison said. His voice was calm, but anger simmered underneath. We did, Telrune admitted. We thought isolation would teach humanity to be more peaceful. Instead, it forced you to become more advanced. Our monitoring stations reported your technological progress. New quantum drives, better weapon systems, medical advances, ship designs that exceed anything in the galaxy, Zesketh added. But more than that, you have something we lost, the ability to fight without expecting to lose. Every galactic species learns from childhood that violence is wrong, that surrender is acceptable, that preservation of life matters more than victory. These beliefs work in a peaceful galaxy, but against the Devourers, they're fatal. President Warren drummed his fingers on the table. You want us to fight your war, to risk human lives saving species that despise us. Yes, Telrune said, and I understand if you refuse. We have no right to ask this. We exiled you. We treated you like criminals for defending yourselves. If you tell us to leave and face our extinction alone, it would be what we deserve. A long silence filled the room. The humans looked at each other, having entire conversations with just glances. Finally, Admiral Stone spoke. What exactly are you offering in return? Telrune had expected this question. Full access to all remaining Council military resources. Complete tactical data on the Devourers. Unrestricted use of Council technology and manufacturing facilities. And when this is over, assuming we survive, humanity will be welcomed back as a full member of the Galactic Council with equal representation. Equal representation, Warren repeated. Not as junior members, not as probationary citizens, equal. Equal, Telrune confirmed, with a permanent seat on the Council. Your voice will have the same weight as the Vakreen or any other species. Lisa Hayes spoke next. The quarantine ends permanently. Human ships can travel freely anywhere in the galaxy. Yes, Melkon agreed. All restrictions lifted forever. Jake Morrison had a different question. If we do this, if we risk everything to save you, we need command authority. Human tactical doctrine, human strategies. We don't follow Council battle plans that have already failed. Zesketh nodded immediately. Agreed, you'll have full tactical command. I'll advise, but final decisions rest with human commanders. President Warren looked at his advisors again. Dr. Helen Carter, who had developed the quantum drive, nodded slightly. Dr. Nathan Cross, head of human medical research, did the same. Paul Dixon, whose engineering kept the colonies running, gave a small gesture of agreement. Warren turned back to the Council delegation. You're asking us to save a galaxy that rejected us. Most humans would say you can burn for all we care. And honestly, part of me agrees with that. Telrune felt his hope dying, but Warren continued. However, there are innocent people out there, children who had nothing to do with your Council's decisions, scientists and artists and families just trying to live. They don't deserve to die because their leaders were idiots. He stood up and everyone else rose with him. Earth will help. But understand this clearly. We're not doing it for you, Telrune. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Because unlike your council, we don't abandon people just because it's convenient. Telrune felt something unfamiliar. Relief mixed with shame. Thank you. How soon can you mobilize? Admiral Stone answered that question. Our fleet can launch in 48 hours. 2,000 ships fully armed and supplied. We'll need complete intelligence files on the Devourers transmitted immediately. You'll have them within the hour, Zesketh promised. Lisa Hayes added, and we'll need fuel stations and repair facilities along the route. Your people need to prepare for that. Consider it done, Melkon said. President Warren walked to the window and looked down at Earth. 20 years ago, you looked at humanity and saw only violence. You couldn't understand that strength and compassion aren't opposites. That being willing to fight doesn't make you evil. He turned back to face them. Maybe after this the galaxy will learn that lesson. Maybe you'll understand that the most dangerous species in the galaxy can also be the one that saves you. Telrune bowed his head, a gesture of respect in Vakreen culture. We're learning it now. The meeting ended with plans being made. Communication channels opened. Data transferred. Ships prepared for launch. The galaxy was about to see what 20 years of human innovation had created. And somewhere in deep space, the Devourers continued their advance, unaware that their perfect adaptation algorithms were about to face something they had never encountered before: human unpredictability. The human fleet emerged from quantum jump in perfect formation. 2,000 ships, each one incorporating technology the galaxy had never seen. Fleet Admiral Zesketh watched from his observation post and felt genuine awe. He had commanded galactic fleets for decades, but nothing prepared him for seeing human military coordination in action. Admiral Richard Stone commanded from the flagship Liberty. Beside him on the bridge stood Admiral Lisa Hayes as his second-in-command. Jake Morrison coordinated the fighter wings from Tactical Station 3. They had all waited 20 years for this moment. Not revenge exactly, but vindication. All ships report ready, Lisa announced. Fleet is holding position at Waypoint Alpha. Stone studied the tactical display showing the nearest Devourer fleet. Intelligence from Zesketh indicated roughly 500 machine ships currently consuming what remained of a Thalen colony. Standard Council tactics would involve a direct assault, line formations, and sustained fire until one side broke. That's exactly what the Devourers expect, Stone had explained during the planning session. They've fought dozens of battles now. They've learned how galactic fleets operate. We're going to do something different. The strategy was simple but radical. Human ships wouldn't engage in sustained combat. They would strike fast, hit hard, and disappear before the Devourers could adapt. Quantum drives made this possible. Jump in, fire, jump out. Never give the enemy time to learn. Captain Brandon Cole commanded the destroyer Defiant at the front of the attack formation. His ship was equipped with weapons that combined human kinetic technology with captured Council energy systems. The result was devastating firepower in a relatively small package. All fighters launch, Jake ordered. Pattern Delta, execute on my mark. Fighters poured from carrier ships. Lieutenant Kelly Wright led her squadron toward the Devourer fleet, her enhanced neural interface allowing her to process information faster than any computer. The other pilots followed her lead, moving in patterns that seemed random but were carefully calculated. Mark, Jake said calmly. The human fleet jumped directly into the middle of the Devourer formation. For 3 seconds they fired everything: missiles, railguns, plasma cannons, and experimental weapons that Dr. Helen Carter's team had developed specifically for this battle. Devourer ships exploded under the sudden assault. Then, the human fleet jumped away before the machines could return fire. Brandon Cole watched his tactical screen as they reappeared 5,000 kilometers. From their starting position, damage report. Minor hull scoring on decks 4 and 5, his weapons officer replied. Shields held. All systems green. Prepare for second jump, Brandon ordered. Different attack vector this time. The Devourers tried to adapt. They repositioned their formation to defend against attacks from multiple angles. They adjusted shield frequencies based on the weapons they had encountered. But the human fleet jumped back in from a completely unexpected direction and used different weapons. This time it was pure kinetic bombardment. Tungsten rods accelerated to significant percentages of light speed. The Devourer's adapted shields were useless against solid matter moving that fast. More machine ships were destroyed. Kelly Wright's fighter squadron danced through the debris field, targeting Devourer command nodes that Dr. Amy Phillips had identified from the intelligence data. Her quantum-enhanced reflexes let her dodge return fire that would have killed any other pilot. "Target locked," Kelly transmitted. Firing. Her missiles found their mark. A large Devourer ship, probably a coordinator unit, exploded in a brilliant flash. The battle continued for 6 hours, but unlike the Barrier Nebula, this time the humans were winning. The Devourers kept trying to adapt, kept changing their tactics, but human unpredictability defeated their learning algorithms. Every time the machines thought they understood the pattern, humans changed the approach. When the Devourer fleet finally broke and retreated, only 70 machine ships remained out of the original 500. The human fleet had lost 12 ships, a ratio that stunned Zesketh. "Impossible," he muttered, watching the battle analysis. "No one defeats the Devourers like this." "Humans do," Stone said simply. "Because we don't follow rules they can learn. We make it up as we go." But Stone knew one battle wasn't enough. They needed to find the source, the central intelligence controlling all the Devourers. Dr. Amy Phillips worked with captured machine components, trying to understand their network structure. "They're all connected," Amy explained during a briefing 2 days later. "Every Devourer ship shares information with a central nexus. That's how they adapt so fast. They're not individual units learning. They're one giant mind spread across thousands of bodies." "Where's this nexus?" Lisa Hayes asked. Amy pointed to a star map. "Based on signal analysis, somewhere in this region, near the galactic core. It's big, probably the size of a small moon." Admiral Stone made the decision immediately. "Then that's our target. We take out the nexus, we cut off the brain. The rest should shut down." Preparation for the assault took 3 weeks. The human fleet pushed deeper into Devourer-controlled space, fighting running battles along the way. Each engagement taught the humans more about their enemy. Each victory built confidence. Captain Jennifer Logan commanded the reconnaissance ship Shadow, scouting ahead of the main fleet. Her crew included Dr. Nathan Cross, whose advanced medical treatments kept everyone functioning, despite the stress of constant combat readiness. Logan's ship was the first to see the nexus. "Oh my God," she whispered, looking at her scanners. "Stone needs to see this." The nexus was massive, a construct of dark metal and energy fields surrounded by thousands of Devourer ships. It pulsed with power, coordinating the entire machine network across the galaxy. This was the heart of the enemy, and it was far more heavily defended than anyone had expected. Admiral Stone assembled his senior commanders for the final planning session. Greg Foster, Jake Morrison, Brandon Cole, Lisa Hayes, and a dozen others crowded into the Liberty's conference room. "This is it," Stone said, gesturing to the holographic display. "We take out that nexus, we win. Fail and the galaxy dies. Questions?" Jake spoke first. "We can't do this with the fleet alone. Someone needs to get inside and plant charges directly in the core." "Agreed," Stone said. "I'll lead the strike team." "No," Lisa objected. "We need you commanding the fleet." "Let me take the team," Stone shook his head. "Lisa, if something happens to me, you're in command. You need to survive this." Jake Morrison stood up. "I'll do it. Give me a team of Marines and Chris Bennett as pilot." "We'll get inside." Chris Bennett, now a decorated combat pilot, nodded from his seat. The Meredith got through worse odds than this. Stone looked at Jake for a long moment, then nodded. "All right. But you get in, plant the charges, and get out. No heroics." The final battle began at dawn, though dawn meant nothing in space. The human fleet engaged the Devourer defenders with everything they had. Ships dodged and weaved through enemy fire. Fighters like Kelly Wright's squadron kept Devourer forces busy while the main fleet pushed through. Jake Morrison's team launched in a stealth shuttle piloted by Chris Bennett. They flew through the chaos, using debris and wreckage as cover. Chris's hands moved across the controls with practiced ease, dodging energy beams by inches. Approaching the Nexus outer hull, Chris announced, "Hold on, this is going to get rough." The shuttle crashed through a maintenance port, crumpling its nose but getting the team inside. Jake and his Marines rushed through corridors of alien machinery, fighting automated defenses. Dr. Helen Carter had given them a device that would create a quantum cascade, destroying the Nexus from within. They found the core after 30 minutes of brutal fighting. It was a massive sphere of computing power, quantum processors working in harmony to control billions of machines across the galaxy. Jake planted the device while his team held the entrance. "Charges set," Jake transmitted. "Evacuating now." The team ran back through the corridors, but Devourer defenses had adapted to their presence. Machine soldiers blocked their path. Jake's Marines fought with determination born of defending humanity for 20 years. Chris had the shuttle ready when they burst back into the hangar. "Everyone in now." The shuttle launched just as the quantum device activated. The core began to collapse, taking the entire Nexus with it. Outside, the human fleet saw the Nexus start to glow bright white. "All ships fall back," Stone ordered.
"Full retreat, maximum speed."
The Nexus exploded with the force of a small star. The shockwave spread across the region, and every Devourer ship in range simply stopped. Their connection to the Central Intelligence was severed. They became nothing more than floating debris. Across the galaxy, Devourer fleets went dormant. Without the Nexus to coordinate them, they were just machines running basic programs. The threat was over. Jake Morrison's shuttle made it back to the Liberty with seconds to spare. When he walked onto the bridge, the entire crew erupted in cheers. Admiral Stone shook his hand firmly. "Well done, Commander. You just saved the galaxy." 3 months later, formal ceremonies took place on Vac Prime. High Arbiter Telrune stood before the assembled Galactic Council with President Daniel Warren beside him. Representatives from every surviving species watched as Telrune spoke. 20 years ago, this council made a terrible mistake. We exiled humanity because we feared their strength and their unwillingness to surrender. But